Hi there, my name is Brian Stevens. I'm the Director of Exhibitions here at the Peterson Automotive Museum, and I'm about to show you through our brand new exhibition, HYPERCARS, the Allure of the Extreme. So this exhibit just opened and is going to last for approximately 18 months. What we're about to see is what we're considering to be the first of two parts to the exhibit. What is a hypercar? I think the term supercar is probably pretty widely at least heard, if not understood. The term hypercar has come about more recently. In our mind, the first true hypercar was the Bugatti Veyron, introduced in around 2005. It was sold very deliberately for $1 million, $1 million US minimum. So you had a 7-digit price tag. It had a horsepower rating of 1,001, giving that 4-digit horsepower rating. The top speed of the Bugatti, not just 250 miles an hour, but 253 miles an hour, which was just way beyond pretty much everything that had been built to that point in time. Therefore, most cars today that we would consider hypercars will have those characteristics. 4-digit horsepower, a top speed of at least 250 miles an hour, 7-digit price tag at the very minimum. Extreme rarity, I would say maybe no more than 100 produced, although the cars that I'm going to show you right now often are produced in very, very tiny quantities, sometimes only one, sometimes less than 10, but in all cases very, very rare. Not a precise definition, but some combination of all of those things are what we consider to be a hypercar. So we'll start here in the middle with, again, the Bugatti Bayrun, what we consider to be the game-changing car. 16-cylinder, quad-turbocharged, 1,001 horsepower, 253 mile/hour top speed, over $1 million price tag. Interestingly, Mr. Peterson, Robert Peterson, the founder of the museum, bought the second Bugatti Veyron. It actually wasn't for sale, but he was so impressed by the car that he convinced Bugatti to sell it to him, even though the car, as it was displayed at the LA Auto Show that year in the mid-2000s, was not for sale. This car has since been replaced by a series of subsequent Bugattis, the Chiron, the Divo, the Centodieci, and others, all of which are even more extreme than this. But in our mind, this is really where it all started in the hypercar world. This is a purely internal combustion engine car, and one of the other things really interesting about hypercars is they are often seen as test beds for new technology, not just in materials, but also in propulsion. Usually cost is no object and the sky's the limit in terms of engineering, technology, and experimentation in a way that you don't really see with smaller or more commonplace family cars, SUVs, and things like that. This car, the Rimac Concept 1 of 2015, in our view and in the views of many, is a real game changer. This is the first electric hypercar, developed in Croatia of all places. Again, a great example of the fact that these cars are created in places all over the world that you would never expect. It has 4 electric motors, produces a little bit over 1,000 horsepower, so again in the 4-digit horsepower rating. Originally cost about $1.2 million. We have a number of other electric hypercars here, but really all of them can be said to trace back to the experimentation with electric propulsion done with this car here. A truly amazing car. They've moved on to produce a subsequent model called the Nevera, originally called the C2 or the Concept 2, but now renamed to the Nevera. Only 8 of these were built. One of them was very famously destroyed in an accident where it went off the side of a road in Europe when driven by one of the Top Gear drivers, meaning this is one of only 7 of these cars left in the world. There we have another absolutely stunning car. Again, like the Rimac there, has that characteristic of a truly exotic, beautiful body that would just absolutely turns heads. This is the Neo EP9, again an all-electric hypercar, like the Rimac over there, with 4 electric motors, produced by a Chinese company in this case called Neo. Probably best known for its trip around the Nürburgring in the late 2010s. During its trip around the track, it set a Nürburgring track record, and not by a small margin, by a significant margin. The footage of this car going around the Nürburgring, I think, had a huge effect on public perception of the capabilities of electric vehicles. Just the imagery and the sounds and the visceral experience of watching this thing go around that track and hearing what almost sound like turbine engines whining as this thing just races effortlessly around the track. The effect of watching that, I think, changed a lot of minds. Over here we have a hypercar built by one of the old standards, one of the big guys in the hypercar world. This is McLaren, and this is their Speedtail. There's nothing else like this on the road. It's incredibly long, has a huge rear overhang. It kind of comes it's almost like a big teardrop from above where it comes back to a point here. Over 200 miles an hour, millions of dollars in cost, well over 1,000 horsepower. Top of the line for McLaren at this point in time, although McLaren does produce another car called the Senna, which could qualify as a hypercar. This really is the pinnacle of McLaren automotive production. Back here, we have a Koenigsegg. This Koenigsegg is known as Thor. That's the title I'm told was given to it by the company in Sweden. Koenigsegg really, although it's not a huge company, it's one of the biggest success stories in the hypercar world. This one right here, 2018 Agera FE. Agera is the model that preceded the Regera. The Agera at one point in time did hold the world record for top speed, 284.55 miles per hour. That statistic represents really an ongoing battle between a small number of these hypercar companies to constantly be the fastest. Bugatti with their Veyron, actually a variation of the Veyron, back in the mid-2000s or late 2000s, set what was then the world speed record. Hennessy, which we're going to see here in a minute, came along and attempted to break that record. And for quite a number of years, these three companies in particular have gone back and forth trying to beat each other in terms of the top speed. Hennessy, with its Venom F5, has not yet put this brand new model to the test in terms of top speed, but it is expected, or at least Hennessy claims, that it will in the very near future beat all of the records held by Koenigsegg and Bugatti, and that this car, the F5, will soon likely achieve a top speed of well beyond 300 miles per hour. John Hennessy, when asked why it is that he is an American boutique builder of hypercars, when asked why he went or got into the hypercar building world, his answer was more straightforward than anybody else we've talked to. It was very simple. He wanted to build the fastest car in the world. He started not with this model, but with a previous model called the Venom GT, which was derivative of a Lotus Elise/Exige. But the car is known to have traveled well into the 270 mile an hour range. This car, the F5, is the follow-up to that one and is expected to go way, way beyond that. Off in the corner, we have our Ferrari LaFerrari Aperta. LaFerrari, at the time this was built, was truly the pinnacle of the Ferrari line. Ferrari, like McLaren and Lamborghini, being a company that produces many, many exotic cars. This is a gas-electric hybrid, extremely powerful, very, very highly regarded in track tests. And really, even though this car no longer is produced, Ferrari has not yet succeeded this one with a true hypercar. They have their SP line, SP 1, 2, and 3 now, of really spectacular cars, but none of them had the exclusivity and the performance characteristics of the LaFerrari. Next to us here is the Lamborghini Centenario. It's similar to the LaFerrari in that it's produced by a company that produces pretty much all superlative cars. Centenario, this one's from 2017. Very, very low production Lamborghini based on the Aventador. Centenario built in much smaller numbers, of course, than the Aventador. The body, although in general it has a similar kind of shark-like wedge faceted aesthetic as the other Lamborghinis and the Aventador. If you compare the two side by side, you'll see that the body is significantly modified. This car is, I believe, four-wheel drive. It's also uniquely four-wheel steering. Has a V12 engine like many of the cars in the room. In this particular one with exposed carbon fiber and really, really beautiful little just sort of almost electric blue accents throughout is really, really stunning to see in person. Back over here, we have our Pagani Huayra Hermes edition. So Pagani is often likened to Koenigsegg in that it's kind of an entrepreneurial success story. Both of them have gone on to really be successful producers in very low quantity of ultra exclusive, ultra high performance cars. The clientele might be a little bit different than Koenigsegg because the cars are a little bit different. They're less about brute force and brute performance and more about intricacy of detail. This is a perfect example of the uniqueness of the hypercar market in that this car was further modified or further customized to meet the owner's tastes and make the car even more exclusive, unique, and special than it even would have originally been. It's a great example of how in the hypercar market, often off the shelf with a car this unique is still not unique enough. In fact, the owner of this car has said that in his mind, the biggest appeal of a hypercar is its rarity and its uniqueness. This car is almost mythical in status in the automotive world. This is the Devil 16. This car comes to us from Dubai, United Arab Emirates, a boutique manufacturer like Koenigsegg or Pagani, but unlike those two, this company is actually still in the initial development of its first model, the Devil 16. The reason this car has reached almost mythical status owes to the fact that they have yet to produce a fully functioning car to be sold to a customer. However, they have been out in the public eye for many years, so everybody's kind of waiting to decide, well, is it real? Is it going to actually happen? Are they going to produce this thing that they promised? And more important than that, what they are promising is astounding. A version of this car will have over 5,000 horsepower coming out of a 16-cylinder engine, which would make it far and away the most powerful road car in history. This is one of 4 of this design that has been produced. This one, believe it or not, was actually produced specifically for this exhibit. A lot of people wonder if this car operates. Again, part of the mythical status. Nobody's 100% sure. Is it real? Is it not? Does it run? Does it drive? Does it not? This car does run and drive. I've driven it myself. We drove it in to position it on this platform. It's fantastic to see a company like this at a stage that Koenigsegg or Pagani was 2 decades ago. I'm hoping that 20 years from now, Devils will be fully developed on the road and will occupy the hypercar marketplace in a way that Koenigsegg's and Pagani's do now. Although this room we're in right now is truly the core of the exhibit, we currently are featuring the other 15 or 16, I think, as of today, down in our lobby. One you're going to see when you first walk in is called the Aria FXE. That car is being built by a company called Aria here in the Los Angeles area. Aria is best known for making prototypes and concept cars for other car companies and also for making film and TV vehicles. Just behind that is a car called the Racer Tachyon Speed. It's another car produced here in the Los Angeles area by an individual named Eric Rice. It is very unique in that it has 6 electric motors, tandem seating, looks like some kind of a hybrid between a spaceship and a Formula One racer. Also on view down in the lobby, we have a McLaren P1, a bare carbon fiber McLaren P1, what could be considered the predecessor to the Speedtail over here in McLaren's hypercar line, the top of the line McLaren. In the middle of the lobby, we have 2 cars that I'm particularly fond of. We have the Delage D12, which came to us from France. The D12 is considered the spiritual successor to the Delage D8 of the 1930s. The remainder of the lobby, we have actually a really exciting brand new arrival. The De Tomaso P72 just arrived yesterday from Germany. De Tomaso, like many of the cars that we have on display, is a brand that goes way back, famous for exotic cars such as the Mangusta, the Pantera, and also a very unique car known as the P70, which was developed in collaboration with Carroll Shelby. Beyond that, we do have, interestingly, 2 motorcycles in this exhibition, also down in the lobby. One is the Lotus C01, and the other is the Aston Martin AMB 001. What we're doing with those is illustrating 2 really unique examples where what truly are car companies, or companies that are associated with building supercars, high-performance cars, sports cars, have for the very first time at least lent their brands to or gotten into the production of motorcycles through partnerships with other vehicle builders. All right, so we've covered most of part 1 of the hypercar exhibit here at the Peterson Automotive Museum. This part runs through mid-September of 2022 to be followed by part 2, which opens a little bit after that time and runs through May of 2023. And at that point in time, we'll be able to do another one of these tours and show you another 15 or 16 cars, hypercars from all over the world.